Okay, and we're here. This is a random Friday night MG Rogue broadcast. Why? Because we can. And who gives a shit anyway? So TJ and I are here. I sent out some other invites. We'll see if they show up. If not, no big deal. So TJ had some boomer moments.
I did not have boomer moments. This is what happens when your technology is made by a boomer. Because every time I don't use my I don't have any heads. I can't use my Bluetooth stuff because it causes all sorts of problems, which you guys have noticed doesn't occur anymore. And
Correct.
so I'm using my computer's speakers to speak and then using my microphone. But apparently every time I go to hook it up, it sets it on mute, but it doesn't set it on mute on my computer. So my computer's audio is on, but within StreamYard, it has it off. So I have to go manually turn it off mute every single time, which is annoying.
Fucking annoying. Yeah.
Yeah, it's annoying. I mean, I could get some headphones to plug into my laptop, but I kind of like the microphone. Yeah, whatever.
No, I get it.
How's your camera? I mean, I know we know why my camera's off because my house is right there right now.
Well, I figured we'll keep it symmetrical, but I'll say hi briefly.
Yeah, put up a sci-fi novel cover or something like that.
What? Oh, you mean for the logo?
Yeah, so you put in the logo.
Oh, logo. I'll leave my camera on for a little bit. Cool. We're just doing this for shits and giggles. What's up, Bacon? You ready for the Fortress Zoom meetup tomorrow?
Hey, Doc, what's happening?
Hey, Doc, how are you?
I'm looking forward to Doc's book coming out.
Yeah, so am I. We got to get him on the show soon, too, so we can talk about it. In fact, hang on a second. Doc, I'll send you a link. Let me see. Try to find, let me look for, that's not what I want. I want to search. There we go. Doc, check your Twitter DMs. Speaking of which, required reading. The most honest book about 3 billion. Oh, okay. Let me go over and retweet this. School safety, see? Cool. That is indeed required reading. That is true. It's a great book. I actually want to go over and peruse it again. Doc, I sent you the link. Not that we have anyone watching, but it's just Bacon. And he's a regular, which I'm hardly thankful for. Oh, shit. And yes, there's nothing wrong with silence here and there. Learn to enjoy it, savor it, relish it. Silence is good. You dirty whores.
So I got something cool to talk about. So I ran into I'm not sure how much people know about the background, but I'm a pretty religious attendee of my local.
What's up, Marty? Good.
And so there's a retired Forest Service Ranger that I run into, and we always chat and talk about stuff. And when I was doing the firefighter academy through the fire district, he was, we were just discussing that kind of stuff. I also cover forestry for my job. So he used to deal with that kind of stuff. So he came up a while ago. It was before the pandemic and the lockdowns, but he came up with this brilliant idea for this novel. And he came up, like, the title was awesome. Everything in the story as it was awesome. And it was based off of, in part his knowledge of the area. He I mean, this is a guy who used to own his own pack mules, and he would take them into, very not desolate, but just very difficult to access areas of the state of the mountains. And so he came up with this kind of murder mystery based on the history of our region. But the thing is, he's not a writer. And so I was like, dude, you got to write this.
I remember you talking about
that.
Yeah,
and he looked at me and he just said, well, you write the book and just put a good word in for me. And I worked on some of it, and I was like, I can't do this. Like, I'm not Mark Zuckerberg. I can't take someone else's idea and make it, because this book I genuinely believe will be a bestseller, and it's probably going to be made into a movie if there isn't a bunch of spurgs. It'll probably be it's a good movie. It would be a great story. So I ran into him today. I don't see a lot of people just stopped going to the gym after the lockdowns or whatever. But so we're going to actually start working on that book. Probably he's not going to do any of the writing. It's probably the way I feel ethically about it.
He's an idea generator.
Well, it's going to be the story by, him, written by me. But this is his story, but it's going to be written by me. And so I feel like that way I'm the kind of type of
consult a lawyer before you publish.
Right. That's where I was actually going to go through a traditional publisher on this one.
All right, cool.
And so I just felt like I would not be able to write this book and just have a little like thank you at the beginning and have everyone telling me, oh, this is a great book. How'd you come up with it? And like some other people, I'm not gonna be able to just lie and say, oh, I stole, or come up with it. It's like, no, someone else came up with the idea for the story. They came up with the title for the book. So, he may not. I think that this is where people need to be honest about how ideas are created. Some people are able to come up with the idea, but they can't put it into, they can't execute it. They can't actually build it. But they have the building blocks. Like, I would have never come up with this idea of a book, and I would have certainly never come up with the title of the book. But I know how to write the book and create the vision that he has. And so, we're both equally on this project. We're both equally reliant on each other. And so for me to do it on my own and get everybody's got their own ethical line. Mine on this kind of stuff, like taking someone else's ideas and especially making money off of it, but especially, getting credit for it. I could never do that. I would have to start every kind of book signing with someone else came up with the idea for this book. Yeah.
You'd have to, even though he didn't write it, you'd have to put his name on the cover.
Right. That's my plan. And that's something I'm going to, shout. I mean, he's not, the thing is, neither one of us are businessmen. He's clearly like not trying to sell this book, like in terms of, he's not trying to be a writer, but that's kind of
you want to give credit where credit's due.
Right. I'm
totally
very big on like giving credit for other people's stuff, because one, people think, oh, well, you came up with this, so you must know all this other stuff. It's like, no, I don't. I just, it's like when I was referencing Fred Reed's comment on the live stream about, bear traps. I don't know if you put that on Wednesday.
Yeah, I remember that.
I specifically cite who came up with that, because somebody's going to think, oh, TJ came up with that. That's a clever say. It's like, no, I didn't. I'll take credit for my own work, right?
Exactly, because it's true. It's true and it's honest.
Yeah. If someone else says something, I'm going to give credit to them. And also, I think that people who came up with good ideas should be, especially, I think the worst case is when people came up with great ideas and they got forgotten. Like they become obscure, and then someone else discovers them. And in some cases, they try to pass it off as their own.
Yeah, like Marconi and Tesla with the radio. It was clearly Tesla's idea, and Marconi just ripped him off. So, and that was settled in the Court of Appeals shortly after Tesla's death.
So this is related, but not the equivalent. But there was a guy who came up with a telephone similar to Alexander Graham Bell's, and he filed for a patent on the exact same day, but he was like an hour or two later. And so
first to market.
And so I can see how that guy would have gotten a little bitter at life.
Oh, absolutely. Because it's like, come on, man, an hour.
Imagine. Well, here's the big question: what delayed him for an hour? Was he having an argument with the old lady? Like, was he stuck in traffic?
What was it? Was it a time zone issue? I
mean, it's a good question. I don't know, but I'm just like, I'm thinking it wasn't a question of like who was smarter or who was better. It was just a matter of, it kind of reminds me of that Cardinal Richelieu line that treason is merely a matter of dates. Well, getting credit for the invention of something is often a matter of dates. There was, I've referenced this before, there was the guy in New Zealand who came up with the first airplane that we know of. But the problem is he was such a recluse and he didn't draw any maps of anything he did. And when he did his flights, he didn't talk about it. But same
with Glenn Curtis and Hammondsport.
Right. So, and now there's people who claim that, hey, Doc, how's it going?
Hey, guys. Let me try to get my audio to work here, but I'll keep listening.
No, we can hear you. Unless you can't hear us.
This isn't the Aaron Clary show. Hey, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hey, let's read this.
That son of a bitch is on vacation.
Oh, we totally got to make fun of him.
He called me right before he went on vacation, and I was busy, so I pushed it to voicemail. He's like, "Oh, pick up your phone, asshole," or some shit like. I'm like, "I'm busy, you fucker. I'll call you back." I'm assuming it has to do with covering for him for one of his shows while he's on vacation. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that shit. Fuck that.
You guys talking about Aaron?
We're busting on Aaron.
No one wants to fuck that.
Did you see he's back on today? He's made a couple posts and stuff like that.
Of course he's back. That guy.
Like he does it all the time. Every time he says, "I'm gonna take a break." Yeah, I know, right? It was like 2 minutes. He was gone, and
man, if live streaming or being on the internet was a drug, like,
right?
I'm just saying, like I would have, if I got deplatformed on always, like I would obviously miss the interactions or the stuff that we do today. On the other hand, it'd be like, yes, great. I don't have to like the stress of just having to keep up with everything.
Seriously,
I can relax. I can go have I can go read a book. I can drink. Well, I'm already doing that.
I got my gin. Oh, real quick, Doc, Robert, Doc.
Hey, Doc, nice to meet you.
Same here, Robert. Love the backdrop there. Wow.
I know.
He's like isn't the
green screen CGI
great? Game store.
I love it. Yeah.
I would have my camera on, except I have the same background or the same kind of.
Not anymore. You don't.
Right.
Well, no. I do, except it's all bare. There's nothing.
You should show TJ. You should show it real fast.
I don't have my camera on.
Right.
Well, turn it on.
Well, my camera's to sit.
Vince, you're going to press into a very uncomfortable area soon.
I know, right? Yeah.
No, it's just my. I've got the armoire and I've got the bookshelf. Everything's empty. Like everything's been cleared out and boxed away and everything.
Wow.
No, competent man. It's a marketing ploy. Right. Aaron does this shit all the time. If you go back,
he is PT Barnum.
Right.
Completely. He's like, oh, I've had enough. I'm going on vacation. I'm going radio silence. And then like a day later, he was broadcasting or doing asshole consulting. I'm like, what are you doing? A vacation means vacation. That means vacation from asshole consulting. Sorry. Jesus Christ. Aaron, if you're watching, you
right.
son of a bitch.
Anyway, so I'm going to start working on that novel and with the retired Forest Service Ranger, and
that's cool.
We'll see what we can come up with a book. I'm trying to think of like what type of style. I want to do almost a Lewis L'Amour, Cormac McCarthy kind of, where it's a little. The thing is, though, one of the things I never liked about McCarthy's stuff, I enjoy reading his prose, but his books are they're literary fiction, which means they're passive in terms of things happen to the characters as opposed to them driving the plot. My books, for people who should read my books, buy my books on Amazon. You can all buy them. You're smart people. They're all action driven, but they're driven by the protagonist or some character. They are character driven plots as opposed to some others where they spend time doing a lot of like descriptions, and it's very like they're painting a painting. But the thing about paintings is the things don't happen. You're seeing a visual, but it's
a snapshot. It's a snapshot.
It's a snapshot. Yeah. And so, but I also don't know if I want to write like a mainstream fiction. It's the one that people read. They're called bathtub readers, where you read it and then you just toss it away.
Well, look at it this way. It's like that. It's like that book called "Save the Cat." It's about screenwriting, and a lot of writers are very pretentious and like, I can't sell out. Well, here's what you do: you write the pulpy kind of like romance, whatever the public wants, and you make your money, okay, and you live happily off of that and comfortably off of that, and then you do your passion, not selling out project based off of that money. So there you go. So don't worry about that, TJ. Write what you want to write.
Yeah, we've got a couple of scenes that I was chatting about with him today about particularly the ending, because the ending is going to determine what is the takeaway from the book. Like what I don't want to say what is the author trying to say. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to
just write a story that people would want to read.
Right, but endings have to end on a note that is appropriate for the character. As one writer told me, you can have it where the character gets what they want, where they don't
get what they deserve.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but like Romeo and Juliet is this like tragedy, but if they had lived happily ever after, it wouldn't be remembered the way it is today.
It was only a tragedy after the intercedings and the interloping of the priest and that one woman.
Hamlet
just
as well.
saying.
I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of. I think another example is Rorschach from The Watchmen, where I remember listening to Alan Moore talk about him, and just said the only appropriate thing for this character's.
If you say that name wrong one more time, I'm going to vomit.
Hey, how do you pronounce it?
Rorschach.
Rorschach.
As in Rorschach test.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Rorschach.
There you go. Thank you.
Rorschach. Welcome to Masculine Geek, folks.
Exactly. Nice.
Wow.
I like it. Yeah, this is what we're all about. Masculine Geek is getting shit wrong, apparently.
Yeah. So, anyways, Alan Moore was saying that the inevitable conclusion of this character was that he needed to die. Like there was no context in which he lives, because he was a character who is defined by a death wish. So that's the point of, like, with that character, the ending is whatever happens, he has to die. And it's
because he has an unbending moral code.
Right.
Ozymandias can do whatever he wants to do the fake alien attack and all the other stuff, which they changed to Dr. Manhattan in the movie, which I think was a big mistake. But, Rorschach is like, no, this is bullshit, and I'm going to tell the world this is bullshit. And, well, Rorschach kind of does that anyway, in the fact that his diary is found and pulled out of the kook box at the newspaper, and eventually, it's hinted that it's going to be published. And but that's well, Alan Moore also said no one was supposed to like Rorschach because Rorschach is an Ayn Rand objectivist, Steve Ditko, Mr. A amalgam for this new DC universe project, since DC inherited all those Charlton titles. And he wasn't supposed to be admired. You were supposed to feel revulsion at Rorschach because he's so violent and unbending and inflexible, and instead he becomes one of the most popular characters in the book because he's has his own moral code, and he's inflexible, and he stands by what he believes in, even if that means paying a price.
His life.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what's funny about different characters. This is what I find fascinating about a lot of these, a couple of examples from not real life, but like non-comic book stuff. So Archie Bunker was written to be originally the dislikable character in that show, All in the Family or whatever it was. And
Yeah.
his son-in-law was supposed to be the character that everybody sympathized with. Instead, Archie Bunker became the most popular. In fact, I remember seeing his sofa chair at
Totally iconic.
Yeah, at whatever. But and it was because he resonated with so many people. And there
Isn't
was
the Smithsonian the fucking chair?
Yes, I saw it. I saw it when I was at the Smithsonian or the one whatever
Up
museum
there with Indiana Jones's hat. Yeah.
Yeah, and Fonzie's jacket.
Mhm.
Yeah, and so another example of this was in Family Ties with Michael J. Fox, where he's playing the
Oh,
young,
yeah.
yuppie, conservative.
Yeah, he's the
Reaganite.
young Reaganite high school kid. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's supposed to be, his parents are supposed to be the likable
The
ones.
hippies.
Instead.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so I think what's funny about that is they create these characters not realizing that they are. Oh, thanks, Bacon. Yeah. So he's referencing one of my books, Men Who Walk Alone. Go get it.
Mhm.
Anyway, I think it's interesting that they create such great characters, but they do so from a position of thinking that they're not good. They're the ones you're not supposed to admire. And Rorschach has his problems. I don't think anybody wants to be Rorschach, but here's the thing. There's a lot of people in life you don't want to be, but you want someone like them doing. There's certain things that.
Well, when shit goes down, you want them on your side.
Yeah, like you don't. There's people who need to do stuff in life that ordinary people, normal people who are frankly just more psychologically healthy, they're not going to be able to do it. You don't have the psychologically healthy do certain things that need to get done. But when you need to get stuff done that's kind of frankly just necessarily brutal, you have guys like that. You want a guy. It's like I was tweeting out the other day about Timothy Dalton's version of James Bond.
Mhm.
I know people don't like his version of Bond, and I know his
And they're all people who have never read the books.
Yes, there are people who
Yeah.
have never read the books. But I promise you, if all the James Bond villains got together and had a convention and voted on which Bond they were going to oppose in their quest
Timothy
for world
Dalton.
domination, they would not pick him. They would be like Roger Moore, James Lazenby, Pierce Brosnan, whatever. But they're like the last guy that they would pick. They would not want Timothy Dalton's. Timothy Dalton's is the one who would butcher them, because he even said in one of his first film, The Living Day, he's one of two films. He's like he's just like, I don't care. I don't care about my job. If they want to fire me, and he even said that in the book, The Living Daylights, the short story. He goes, yeah, go ahead and tell our boss if he fires me, I'll thank him for it. Like he just doesn't care. And so the guy, the assassin with license to kill who doesn't care is far scarier. But he also looks like he's one mission away from ending up in the loony bin himself. So you want someone who's almost as crazy, but not nearly as crazy as these other guys.
That's
Well,
true.
when you think about the dogs that are herding dogs that guard sheep, and the theoretical wolves that would prey on sheep, that would prey on the flock, the differences between the two are not all that great. I mean, they're in the same family. They're all canines as far as that goes. But one guards the flock, one preys on the flock, and what's the difference? It's that breeding, civilization, whatever you have it, you are that beast that is capable of great violence, of doing horrific things when the need's called upon, but you control that impulse, you control that murderous rage, you control that rapacious appetite, what have you. And that's what we kind of one of the things I always think is really cool about Robert Howard's writing, besides the fact that he just has such a wonderful style and a way of illustrating things with words, is he believed that man's natural state is a more barbaric state. Man's natural state is barbarism, that civilization is kind of counterproductive and self-destructive, and far less honest, because in hiding behind this facade of being civilized and a certain level of nobility, we're lying to ourselves. But also, in civilization, you have political classes whose entire reason for existence is perpetuating their own power and longevity in the sphere of politics. Whereas, if we're all barbarian tribesmen, we all have something we do in our tribe that we contribute to our tribe. And if we are a danger to the tribe, if one of us is doing something to the children of the tribe, we don't put up with that shit. We take care of you because you are a threat to our pack. You are a threat to our pack's safety, our tribe's safety. And we deal with you and we get rid of you. And in doing what's best for ourselves, we end up doing what's best for our tribes, our pack. And, and that's more natural and honest than, any politician who smiles in your face and tells you, yes, your concern is important to me, and I'm going to work on that right away. And, oh, by the way, the CEO of GM is donated this huge amount of cash to my re-election campaign, or General Electric. So, I'm going to put him on this economic board, even though that same year, General Electric, I think, had absolutely no federal taxes that they paid that year.
There are a few major corporations that pay federal taxes.
I think the thing with that is that's the argument some people. I've had a lot of interesting discussions, and I don't necessarily have a concrete view on this. But one of the arguments that people have made for the traditional aristocracy and for monarchy. Again, I don't have any concrete opinions, but I think that these are interesting points that they make, is that with aristocracy, these are people who have power regardless, or, like the patricians from Rome. These people had power that was there regardless of, it was difficult to bribe them because they were going to remain in power no matter what. Perhaps they would accept bribes. I'm not saying that these people were totally innocent of this kind of stuff, but they were not swayed easily by public opinion. And at the same time, there's a populist side of me that's like, yeah, well, maybe they need to listen a little bit more. And I think that that's where the concept of noblesse oblige, or noble oblige, this idea that you're supposed to acknowledge and have some sort of respect for people who are below you. And so, as opposed to having somebody who's in office where, because here's the thing about elected officials, their constituency, especially in our modern day, changes very quickly. So they may support you today, but the question is, if their electorate, if the constituency changes, do they still vote the same way? And that raises the question of representative government, where, well, what happens when your constituency wants you to vote in a way that's not good for freedom? And all that stuff. Do you take a stand? Some people may do that, some people may not, but that's one of the problems with the way we do things, where the average person's opinion matters just as much as somebody whose opinion is more important. We don't have a democratic vote on who's going to be our plumber, who's going to fix our car. We don't have a democratic vote on that, but we have a vote on who's going to control a lot of very important things in our country. And so
well, part of the problem is the way it was designed is that men of character were supposed to take time away from their occupations, their families, do their time of public service as a civic duty, and then immediately go back to their farm, to their blacksmithing, to their brewing company,
and shut the hell up and not say anything about it and just do their job.
Yeah, and go right back to work. But instead, we have a political class who, you know, Nancy Pelosi's been in public office for how many decades now? Over 3 or around 3.
Yep.
You know, there's plenty of video.
Done absolutely nothing.
Yeah. And there's plenty of videos of our current president who, you know, trying to grill Clarence Thomas or trying to lecture someone like Thomas Sowell on racism. And, you know, and it's, of course, he was laughable then. And that was before whatever his mental condition is now. And the other problem is you have a constituency, a large part of people who, God, freedom's scary. If I'm responsible for making my own life decisions and have to live with the outcomes of that, then, you know, hey, all I got to do is get the little brat out of bed at 8 o'clock in the morning and send his ass off to school. And then, you know, for 8 to 10 hours a day, he's somebody else's problem than mine. That's great. I go, I clock in, clock out. I do whatever. I come home, I sit down, turn on the TV. I watch my bread and circuses, and you know, that's fine. So when government tells you to kneel, well, we do all this stuff for you, so surely you can do this one little thing and kneel for us. And
you all will kneel.
Yeah, and most people will. The scene in Avengers where Loki comes walking down the stairs and he's talking about man's natural state is to kneel. You don't want this burden, this horrendous weight on your shoulders, and I'm here to liberate you from that. And all you have to do is kneel. And I mean, it's so easy to kneel that even, you know, major athletes in the NFL and, you know, various other sports can do it. So, you know, hey, they're multimillionaires. So surely you can take a knee and kneel, because it's the easiest thing on earth.
It comes naturally to women in Aaron Clary. So there you go.
Well, especially after Rum with both.
There's a what is it called? When a pitcher's winding up a throw.
Mm-hmm.
What's it called? Winding up a pitch. I felt like there was a pitch being winded up against Aaron Clary.
There you go. There's always one. There's always one. There's always one in the wings.
Yeah,
I want to do a quick switch here real fast. I want to get off the politics, because quite frankly, it bores the shit out of me. So, and not anything against you, Robert, but politics for the most part is I don't.
Oh, I know.
Just don't care.
It just kind of tied in with some of the stuff TJ was talking about. So
that's fine.
My reason for throwing it out. But I don't blame you. If I wanted to do politics, I'd do talk radio.
Exactly. Exactly. And then you'd be boring the nation. And
exactly.
It's like nobody cares.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Jesus Christ! Can I finish? Can I finish? Can I finish?
It's only your channel, so yeah.
I know. It's like Jesus. No, I like hearing everyone's opinions. I like everyone running off at the mouth. It entertains me. Mm-hmm. It entertains our viewers, and I don't have to do any work. So there you go. But I do want to talk about and discuss a little bit about Safety Doc's book. So Doc, let's talk about you. You're on the spotlight now.
Well, hey guys, I appreciate it. And,
absolutely.
And yeah, Robert, I mean, I love listening to what you're saying there. And I love Loki, right? Like, so yeah, I am in the process of just patching up a few chapters, and the velocity of information, human thinking during chaotic times, or it could be during uncertain times, and kind of hashing out, what resonates best. But so under a publishing contract, I received my royalty check yesterday for School of Errors for last year. So, ran to the bank and brought home, some change in my pocket, of course, but yeah, it was it's nice as a writer, write once a year to get that. But so it's the same publisher, Roman and Littlefield. And it started last year about this time. I was lining up interviews, doing, literature review. So basically, how do people behave on a population level when chaos lasts for months, for several months? So, and try to study that in a non-war context. So not write about, here's what happened in World War II. So let's try to figure out what's happening now. Because I was seeing some really unusual behavior. Like 3 months in, people's buying patterns changed. They started to switch out of buying toilet paper, pasta, and batteries and toys, and they switched into buying toys and, trying to have an in-ground pool put at their house and things like this. So there's this change in behavior is something what I started researching and found it's called crowd-in behavior. So after like 3 months of extended chaos, you just kind of give up, right? You don't know when it's going to end. So you look back to last year, people are like, I'm not sure when this is going to end. Like who's coming back to work? Our school's going to open up and all that. So they're like, screw it. I'm going to make everything around me more comfortable. So, that's Netflix subscriptions went up. So all of these purchasing things, which are for comfort, even though people didn't have more money, you think they would be buying, again, they would be stockpiling essential items, but they didn't. They started to shift this behavior. So, I was digging through and had several books. One which I just love is Bernays, Edward Bernays' Propaganda, written in 1928, and of course, but just also the government psychology that comes in the messaging. And how does the government try to keep people like moving forward and kind of sticking to the narrative? And so I researched back in 1918 in Austria, they had what were called Nailmen, Wehrmen am Eisens. So they were wooden statues about 10 feet high of soldiers, and you get a nail. So if your husband was killed in combat, you'd get a nail and you'd go down and people would watch you hammer this nail in, or you could buy a nail and hammer it in. And eventually these things would be all covered in nail and they would become steeled, right? So it looks like it's a steel sculpture when really it just started out of wood. But this was done for morale. This was done to make people feel that they were contributing, but also so people could be seen contributing. So so anyway, these are neat things because I worked with Phil Heinrich, a friend of the show who's in Germany, and a lot of these things were destroyed after World War II. They were, linked to the Nazi party. So museums kind of keep these in the back. A museum in Germany sent me 2 pictures, but they're like, we give you permission to use these, but they're not on display here, but you can use them in your book. But then, I start to flip it forward to saying, like, what do we see now and what don't we see? And we saw like those TikTok videos, right, of nurses and medical staff and stuff of like this TikTok video. So I kind of analyzed that, of saying, that was this whole process of breaking up finite voltage, which is a term in the book. At 90 days, people at a population level tend to kind of lose it. In soldiers, this was studied by Dr. John Apple in World War II, and it was about 88 days in frontline combat. Like in Italy, you're either killed, captured, mental collapse, or severely wounded. Like that was it. So, what do you do? What's the takeaway on some of this stuff? And one of the things is we lost the start and end time to our day for a lot of people, right? Like, so you're working from home. A lot of people like Chad Elkins, was saying, hey, I'm working like 16 hours. I had lunch with Chad last October. He's like, I'm working nonstop because my clients feel they can email and call me anytime. So there's this thing called Parkinson's law. And I kind of reinterpreted it a little bit of saying, you need to reimpose a start and end time to your day. And I interviewed a guy in Chicago, Aaron Sawyer, Redline VR Virtual Reality Lounge. And he was shut down. So the city shut him down right away as non-essential. And so he had to repurpose his business and whatever. And what he found out was people were knocking at his door, calling him up and saying, can we just use your space and set up an office? Like we're stuck at being, we're tired of being at home. We don't have good air conditioning. And so these are all people in high rises. So he redoes this virtual reality lounge, which already has these little pods where you'd go in and get your VR equipment and game and stuff like that. And he turned it into offices that he rented by the hour, and some people just rent it by the day. They bring their laptop. He had good Wi-Fi. But it's this whole thing of like, what do you do? And I wrote in the book too, like my daughter, who at the time was 9, back, March of 2020, her friends are emailing her and saying they're ripping out all of the equipment at the park, all the playground equipment. And she's just freaking out, doesn't know when school's going to start. And so I said, let's just check out what's going on. So we took took the video camera and tripod, and we went out 13 times by, spread out about 3-4 days, and we videotaped the playgrounds. She did a little reporting thing, right? There's nobody out there, but it's all taped up with police tape, so it looks really gruesome. We're recording the Walmart parking lot, the armory in our town, stuff like this. But it was really one of those what a member check experience, right? She's checking this out. She's doing her little reporting on it. We're sending it to Grandma and Grandpa. So to me, it's a fascinating book, because I learned a lot how throughout history we've used visual representations to communicate messages during chaos. World War II had the Committee for National Morale in 1941, appointed by FDR. 90% of what they did was visuals. These big democratic surrounds, the Manhattan Museum of Art, and the newspapers got them because everybody can understand, visual more or less, versus like trying to convey against languages and people with literacy barriers. But I interviewed Larry Lawton, who was America's biggest jewel thief. And I have different parts. So over here, I have 7 parts to the book.
Yeah, if you want to share anything, let me know. I'll throw it up.
I don't think I'll share this, but the first part is Temporal Perception, and I wrote about the Smoky Mountains. My wife and other daughter just came back from, my oldest daughter is on a dance team. They just came back from Tennessee yesterday. And in the Smoky Mountains, back in 2017, they had a fire at Pigeon Forge in Gatlinburg, and people knew the fire was burning on top of the mountains. They saw it up there, and they just thought someone else will take care of it. Not a big problem. Fire department saw it. They're like, yeah, it'll probably burn out. It's rocky. And it didn't. The humidity dropped. It took off. Killed people, ended up wiping out the area. So talk about this whole thing of how we always wait for somebody to warn us, right? Mm-hmm. And they interviewed people, National Institutes of Measurement. I don't know how the hell they got assigned that job to come in and research what happened here, right? That doesn't seem like
that's odd.
But they would go and they interview people, and people were saying, even people who live there, they're saying, we thought we had more. They would have told us, right? Someone would have told. We knew it was wrong. Like when you see that, and there was a couple, and they're vacationing in the Smoky Mountains there, and they sent a picture to their son who lived in New York or something. He was a firefighter, and they're like, hey, this is going on. And he contacted them immediately. He's like, get out of there. The humidity is low. That whole thing could go up like a tinderbox. So amazing interviews. Yeah. I interviewed Robert Travis, who was an Alaskan crab boat deckhand for 2 seasons, and 120 days. And then I think 130 days out on the ship. And one chapter is All My Bosses Are Dead. All 6 of his bosses were killed while he was on the ship. So, and I start to plot this thing out too. I interviewed Clay Martin, who was a military sniper. And you get really good for about the first 30 days, and then you increase a little bit better in your skill set and your decision making. And then at about 75 days, your decision making gets bad. You make these fatal mistakes. And you saw that in the crab boat data. I'm pulling up the data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and crab boaters, the most dangerous time to be on a crab boat that you'd be killed or severely wounded was the first month and the last month. In between, it wasn't too bad. And I'm like, well, why is it the last month? Because shouldn't you just keep getting better? Like you're just getting, right. It, but you get this fatigue, right? And it's the same thing. We saw in civilian populations, more car deaths, more things like this. I mean, people just not paying attention. They just kind of burn out. So yeah, it is. So I get into this whole thing of face validity, how to watch what's going around you. Joe Dolio, I interviewed Joe for 2 chapters in the book. So yeah, Tactical Wisdoms, authored Joe Dolio. So that was before he released Tactical Wisdom. And so Joe's in the book. Larry Lawton, America's Biggest Jewel Thief. And I had one question for Larry. It was really hard to get through to. I had to work through all of his layers there. But I said, how did you find out about 9/11? Because he was in a maximum security prison. When he was released in 2007, he didn't even know that cell phones existed. So he's on a bus and they're shipping him home to Florida. He stops at a gas station. They're like, hey, we're going to get food. And he's like, what are we doing here? And there was a Subway restaurant. He had no idea that stuff existed. They gave him a $5 bill when they just, got discharged him. And remember those $5 bills had that huge face on them and they're all distorted for a while. He thought it was fake money. He thought it was a setup. So he's like, how do I redeem this? And so like, how do you get information in these settings and how do you verify information? And so the whole book is for all of us, right? Of how do you verify information? How do you build a network around you so you find out what's going on? We know the media is trash. And how do you move forward during uncertain times when you have no idea, are you essential, non-essential, what's open, what's closed?
Wow.
So altogether about 55 chapters, I think 8 interviews. I had a lit review of 70 articles, several books. I just got done with Talib's Black Swan.
Oh, yeah.
So this is, you can pick this up for like $5 on eBay. So Talib was an economist. He's what I call Aaron Clarey, if Aaron Clarey spell checked before he published. So it's funny. I'm kind of reading this. I'm like, this is what Aaron could be like if he put a little more time into the polish part. But the great thing with Talib is he wasn't a researcher, so he didn't have to abide by all of these, P scores and significance and stuff like this. He just was telling what it's like to have these massive disruptive things happen to society's economy, 9/11, the Patriot Act, so forth. And so I've loved what I've been reading. One of the first books was Marshall McLuhan's The Message is the Massage. It should be message, but it was a typo, so he just went with it. But back in the 60s, saying how we're going to be dependent upon electronic media. He was projecting, the internet and the connections like that. But so what I've learned through this, I'm hoping that people, will pull out of, what I've put together here is, the questions to ask yourself, how to recognize those indicators. Because I think we're in for it again. Like when I finished the book a couple of weeks ago, and I thought, okay, it's like a conclusive point. And now it's like, you're starting to hear Delta variant, whatever variant and additional lockdowns. I'm like, the book's got to end.
We've always been at war with East Asia, whatever.
We have. And so we get into, I kind of wrap it up with this compliance behavior, right? Like New Mexico had the sweepstakes where they're offering you, fishing license for life if you take the vaccine, stuff like this. And
Ohio had a lottery for it.
Washington State, they just gave it was like $1 million lottery for
So that's part of this too, is, so what happens though when that fades? Because North Carolina rolled out their lottery and their vaccination rate plummeted. So what's the next step, right? And if you are saying, that you're doing this to be preventative, right? You're always going to have something that'll be out there. So it's really a permanent thing once you do that. So it ends in kind of this really interesting kind of, I call it the great regret of how people kind of got back into things. And but what I did is I gave it out to a number of reviewers as I was writing it. And I said, one of the things I want you to do is just make sure it doesn't have a conspiracy feel to it, because I don't want people to read this and say, oh yeah, this is, anti-vaccine, or this is, government propaganda and stuff like that. Because I interviewed Nikolai Razavayu, who's on Masculine Geek. Nikolai has the longest chapter in the book devoted to his time as a Russian cyclist, and really great depth we put in building that chapter. Talking about Chernobyl, right? He took his transistor radio at night when the Kremlin would knock down the radio jamming, and the woodpecker, right, is the Moscow radar system. It would power down at night. And this thing still exists outside Chernobyl. Like if you ever Google like a Moscow muffler, and he took this transistor radio out, and he could hear from Poland that there's actually like radiation being detected in Poland, and this nuclear fires happening at Chernobyl. And he's biking like 50 miles away from that in the Soviet peace race. He has no idea. Well, he has some idea, but like no one official government narrative, nothing's going on. So it's exciting. It's weird to wrangle all of this, in, like how this all became a book, because it's not linear, and I didn't write this in a linear fashion. Like I wrote it at the start, and then I wrote the end, and then I wrote the middle, and I did it that way so everything would kind of link together. But it's wild. I had a section there too about UFOs. I took it out because I just thought it's too easy to fringe on that, but. Like we had this big UFO announcement in April, and then allegedly there's going to be more coming out. But then, like, there was nothing with that. I mean, you didn't see it as headlines in newspapers. When I was in college, they brought a UFO guy in to speak at night in the Commons area or whatever, so you could go in and listen. And he'd show documents, and 99 out of 100 words would be blacked out, and he just went for the entertainment value. But you always thought, like, oh, is this really happening? And so I'm thinking the fact that narrative totally got squashed shows you how much, the government, big tech, everyone else is focusing on other things. Because in any other year, right? Like this would have been insane. And I'm going back, I was reading an article in Popular Mechanics where, one of the very reputable scientists was giving very detailed interview, and that never got picked up in mainstream. So I also crossed a few, what should I say, electrified bridges during this journey. I got myself into, some trouble in some of the areas that I went with this, which
so?
Some of it I can't talk about. But you start to go down the wrong paths, and you get asked, why are you coming down this path? And it's not just a friendly question. It becomes more of a very aggressive inquiry. And it's like, at some point, maybe some of that can come out. None of it can come out in the book, but yeah, once you start researching more and more things and asking for different information in people,
it takes on a momentum of its own.
It does.
Yeah.
So anyway, if you're not interested in the book, that was way too much.
No, that's perfect. That's what I wanted to hear. Now, when is it? When are you finalizing it?
So September 1st, it's due to the publisher, and I have numerous graphics that I commissioned to have made for the book. So,
cool.
And these are all like my own intellectual property, right? So I don't have to worry about that. And I worked with outstanding graphic designer who I'd sketch something down and whatever. And I'm like, here's what I'm trying to do. And then she'd be like, here it is. I'm like, oh my God. Like I didn't even think of like doing it this way. But September 1st, it's to the publisher. What happens then is the publisher goes through the proofs. So that's usually about a month. So they'll send me a first proof and say, look at this or look at the citation or whatever. And I think I have like 360 citations in the book.
Oh, wow.
Literally. So they'll go through that and then, finish up artwork and formatting and trim and things like that. And then hopefully the end of the year would be release. Around
December?
Yeah. And if they don't do December, they'll hold off and do February, because February is a better month for marketing for scholarly books. Like School of Airs is a strong library book. Like that's a strong library presence around the world. So this is kind of like that. It's deemed as a scholarly book. But I think it's going to be highly interesting. I mean, I've 8 interviews and listening, and I record it. I'm sitting there, I'm transcribing, I type horribly, right? So I'm playing it in slow, so we both sound like we're drunk, and then the boat captain said, like, Jesus, Rob, you're drunk the whole time. That's why you got hurt on the boat. You're drunk. And I'm going to play it back at regular speed. He's fine. But yeah, I'm just typing everything out, and that for me was such an immersive process to do that, because again, I mean, this isn't easy for me. I mean, like I marvel, honestly, like TJ at your books, because I'm like, I couldn't do that. Like it's such a tedious undertaking for me when I do these. Well, like do these books, right? My second book, but it's worth it. Like I feel such fulfillment in the research and crafting and going back, and people don't understand of how, for me, I mean, it is really difficult.
Draining.
to go back in 360 citations and double checking with people.
Yeah.
And, but
yeah, I gotta do the same thing
it.
with my news articles where I'm reading through stuff and I gotta make sure that everything I've cited or I've been linking to is accurate. And a lot of people just link to stuff or just cite stuff, but they don't have to actually look at it. I do the same thing, frankly, whenever somebody is quoting a founding father of America or some famous person. I'm like, I immediately am thinking, where did you get that like, where did that quote come from? I want the original document source and I want it from a legitimate source. So, did this founding father actually say this, or did this person? And so I've realized, like, a lot of famous sayings, in some cases, they didn't say those exact things. They said something similar. But then there's cases where they didn't actually say it. That's what someone else said about what they were saying. Like, they didn't actually say it. So it's nowadays you got to check everything. Like, it kind of reminds me of the old journalism saying, if your mother says she loves you, check it, double check it. Like, make sure it's accurate.
Yeah, and to build off of that, I don't think it's just. Oh, well, you're right. It is that. Plus, it's the Case Act, right, which is the new intellectual property law, which went into effect in January. And I can definitely notice it with my publisher, the new requirements to make sure that, all of your quotes are cited to the original source. Anything that you get from Creative Commons, if it's clip art or something like that you're doing, full attribute on that and double checking and people signing off and stuff like that, which is different than School of Airs. School of Airs had its own rigor to that. But now, again, I mean, it's a 7-page document I'm having to get out to people I interview. I have to have the chapter provided to them, and then they have to sign off because, right, some of these folks, like, if they could get heat in their occupation, or if they lose their job, so they can't come back and sue me or sue the publisher. So that becomes a little bit awkward. But people, are kind of in for that game. So I do have a graphic. Am I able to share something on?
If you do, down the bottom, there should be a little menu, and there should be a little button that says share.
Okay. So
then that'll throw it up in the studio, and then I'll go ahead and click it to activate it. But a pop-up will show up, and you can do application or tab, and you can pick the tab that or the application you're using to show the graphic.
Oh, okay. Share. Okay. Share screen. Got it.
Now, when you were talking about transcribing stuff, was that just simply because of doing interviews, or is that indicative of your writing style?
Right. Yeah, my writing style is nutso, right? Like, I'm doing this. I wrote I wrote this when I was at the dealership having some work done on my car, like an outline for a chapter. But it's when I interview people. So I record all of the interviews, but we only do audio, and I think it helps people out too, so we can just focus on the interview. I don't want them to have to deal with video while we're doing this. So it's purely audio, and then I play it back first and just give a cold listen to it to make sure there's some, write some themes down, and I know, like, something's coming up at about this point that I want to slow down and take some more time and the second playthrough, and then I transcribe it word for word. And I send it back to that person and say, here it is transcribed. I'll send you a copy of the chapter, just to make sure that it's accurate. What you said, is there anything you want to add to it? And people do tweak it a little bit. They'll say, yeah, I've been thinking about, usually it's this thing, they'll come back and say, I've been thinking about, since we did the interview, and I have something I want to add to this, or I want to change this up a little bit. But yeah, and one of them I had done professionally. I hired that one out because the person I interviewed, Linda Stone, was the vice president of Microsoft. And, you can't get things wrong with Linda Stone. I had several copies going back and forth. Continuous partial attention is the chapter. And, so Linda was extremely, particular on that, which she has to be in what she does. And thankfully, I mean, she was great to work with, and we came up with a chapter that she agreed, to and signed off on. But it's fascinating to listen to these interviews and to write them, because it's such a learning process for me. And so going to the graphic that's up, this is a graphic that I produced for the book, right? It's probably been out there in some form somewhere, but based upon my research, based upon interviews with Robert Travis, the crab boater, Clay Martin, the sniper, author of Prairie Jungle or Prairie Fire, Concrete Jungle. So if we look at this, and so this is continual number of days, and the context is a high stress environment. So it's a military deployment. It could be if you're working as a crab boater. It could be if you're assigned to be one of the miners having to mine underneath Chernobyl to try to get boron and stuff underneath where the meltdown is. But if you're in this high stress environment, so you see the quality of decision making on the left and continual days in that environment on the right. And again, so the dotted line is your skill level. So the more you're in that environment, you learn more about it, you get better. And that kind of keeps going up. But again, about 75 days, your decision making starts to go down. And we see that across all of these situations. And so why is it? It's usually people will tell you it's like the God complex. I've been out here 75 days and I haven't been killed yet, so I'm invincible. And that's when they make a mistake. Or, it just becomes so familiar with people that they lose the edge and they don't realize every day you're walking. It's this positive recency, gambler's fallacy type thing. You think you're 28 times on red, the next time will be red too. And it's not that way. So this is important when you're working with yourself, that, hey, I'm not making the decisions as sharp as I was at the start of COVID or the start of the protest or whatever. And, my family, I'm seeing this in my family, or I'm seeing this in my friends or my community of the people I interact with. I'm starting to see them lose it. One person, school administrator, told me, I've been honking my horn every day on the way to work and I'm just angry at people and stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, it's just fine. It's 75 days. This is finite voltage, 90 days thing. It's very natural. But then how do you break out of this too? And I'm like, it's the Parkinson's law. The Socratic method, right? So I had 12 things that I identified, and the Socratic method, talk to yourself, kind of talk your way through things. Here's what and I do that a lot. I've always done that. Especially at night, I'll go out for a walk and I'll kind of talk through if it's either stuff I'm thinking about or if it's book stuff or podcast stuff, whatever. And you just kind of click it through your mind, or I'll pretend I'm being interviewed and giving responses. And journaling. Right. We know journaling also, if you date journaling, it produces this transitory effect, because pretty soon you have, you have 7 days of journaling. So you can look back, you've made progress from 7 days. You're not languishing. So you date things and you move forward. You use the word I observed. I talked about this at a presentation I did for Santa Barbara School District. And I said, if you say I observed versus they said, you instantly have a sense of greater control over things. You increase your finite resilience to finite voltage, all of these things, right? You just saying, I observed this happening, and kind of going down that line, Parkinson's law, stuff like that. So anyway, one of the things that came out of World War II in Apple was troop rotation, which was implemented in Korea and then Vietnam. And also the finding that if you could do about 4 days for every 80 days of combat, most soldiers could reintegrate back home pretty well. There weren't really thorough studies on, the barber and the farmer and the banker and how all of that. But, there was enough anecdotal evidence of saying, as long as you don't get people to the stress point of finite voltage and braking, they can reintegrate pretty well, or you give people breaks between tours. Clay Martin was saying the same thing. But so, we look at this though, and I think the thing that initially would catch me off guard is when I started to research this, I didn't think people would crack after 75 days with decision making. I thought we'd have some people out there, who would just continue to be able to handle this, and that's just not the case. So it's knowing that, knowing your member check people around you. like I interviewed Brian Bowden. I think Brian was on your show. Brian
was, yeah.
Brian was part of my member check network. So every like 3 to 5 days, we all did this check-in for, I don't know, 6 months. And Brian had one of his publics. So like a 4-minute video, he's going through the Bronx, talking about what's happening, what's different. And so I was citing that one. But yeah, it was Chuck Mack, University of Pittsburgh Med, was talking about what was happening in his setting. And he took a picture. I have it in the book. Allegheny County came out with a map, a COVID hotspot map, and you could zoom in. It was in the newspaper. You go on their website, like the end of March, and you could zoom into your neighborhood and see which basically houses have COVID. And I'm like, this is weird. And he's like,
it's pretty wild.
So he took a picture of it. He sent me the link, and I have a picture in the book. But yeah, imagine like your neighborhood. You can see like your neighbor's house is dark blue. So like, and then and I'm like, but there was nothing. Like, what do you do with this? So this whole thing, velocity of information, velocity is speed in a direction. So when all this information comes at you, how do you process it? What don't you process? Where does attention kind of get overloaded? Like Linda Stone talks about attention. You know, when they started the Internet Project, which Linda Stone was part of back in the 80s, you know, the thought with Apple was if you have more than 10 search results come back on a search, you're going to freak people out and they'll never use the internet again. So that was the mindset when they, you know, were constructing the consumer internet. So, you know, I absolutely love where the book has developed, and it is all writing downhill now. Just one of the things too, just at the end here, is I break chaos. I separate chaos and crisis very specifically. I give definitions where most people kind of blend those together. I'm like, this is chaos, this is crisis. Crisis is usually solvable. We think there's a turning point, the Cuban Missile Crisis, and chaos usually doesn't scale in a linear fashion. So you really have no idea what the hell's going to go on, and you can't really prepare for it. And there's different phases of chaos. Like most people just say it's binary. It's here, it's gone. And I'm like, no, that's not right. There's like definitely 4 phases of chaos. So yeah, the velocity of information, and
so either December or February, basically.
December or February.
Okay.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, that'd be cool to talk with you again, especially after reading the book. That would, you know.
Well, we do want to have you on again, either during the book release or after it's released, so we can obviously, as Robert says, time to read it. Look at this motherfucker right here.
Hello.
Jeez.
Hey, that guy's going to read the book.
All right, somebody is echoing.
I don't know how to read. Oh, it's probably me. Hold on.
Jesus Christ, no.
It's the naked guy at the bottom of your screen.
Is it still echoing?
I don't think so. Yeah, it is. I'm hearing myself.
All right, how about now?
Test. No, we're good.
All right, sorry. This StreamYard sucks dick.
Yo, it has its moments. Yeah.
Oh, someone mentioned Aaron Clary?
Well, not for nothing.
Oh, poor Aaron. Just so angry, stuck in South Dakota.
Whatever you mean.
Yeah, having been in the service, though not serving in a frontline unit or in combat situation, I remembered reading and hearing about, you know, trying to cycle your time in and off the line. That at a certain point, guys really seem to kind of hit a breaking point, and you know, and I remember that went back to World War II, but I never did any research on my own further than that to hear that there was actually someone who was starting to study that. So that was cool of you mentioning that, Doc. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's Dr. John Apple, and his work isn't very well known. I was able to obtain his original papers, you know, copies of those and some other documents. But two, like when he was young, so he was in his 20s and he asked to be on the front line. And then he's making these recommendations. And of course the brass are like, well, you know, like if we do this rotation, we're not going to have enough soldiers. And get this, guys. So the first thing Apple said is maybe we just need to convince them why they're here. So he worked with Frank Capra and they did the Why We Fight video series.
Right.
So, the whole thing of just people guys don't know what to expect. So let's do this series. It's an issue of motivation. So how Frank Capra and then Ted Geis, right? Or Dr. Seuss, came into that. So that's all in this too of the whole area of, kind of propaganda and these democratic visual surrounds, how to use that. And it's weird too, right? We didn't see any of that during COVID. We did one of the chapters I have, and Drew Bay helped me out with this one, but the chapter right here is called it's Homefront Morale, Fitness and Fortitude. But why didn't we have in March a committee put together saying, okay, everybody, you can do this to become more physically fit and to increase your level of nutritious food intake. Even Fauci was saying, hey, I get out every day and I'm running 7 miles. I don't know if but anyway, where was this? And it's weird because the Army already had this program put in place in 2016. It was called Civilian Fitness, and they had it ready to roll, and they did on a limited scale. So you really just had to press a button to scale it, but we didn't. So some questions like, why didn't we do this? Because this would have been very World War II-ish, very civilian morale, to do this. So the fact that we didn't have this group is pretty amazing once we get into that chapter.
I have some theories about that, but
Well,
that part of that relates well to our group, and part of that goes off into. I don't want to go into that area on Vince's show, so we'll just say I have some theories. I'm sure other people do as well, so we'll just leave it at that.
And John,
talk about the Jews.
John,
That's for a different John.
Exactly,
Yeah.
John. This is Safety Doc Dave Broden. Dave Broden. This is Modern Life John.
yeah, Modern Life John, you bet.
How are you, Butter?
Good. Japan.
That's me.
Exactly, and half naked apparently.
Fully naked.
No, fully naked. Okay, Joe, for fuck's sake.
No. I got underwear on.
Oh, thank Christ.
Well, glad. We're all glad here. We're all happy here.
I need to see your swimsuit
It's all
area.
fine here now. Thank you. How are you?
How's Japan lately?
Hot.
Literally?
Yeah, no, because I went to Okinawa again. I went to, do you guys know, let's see how good you are in history. I went to Iwo-jima. Does anybody know Iwo-jima?
Iwo Jima?
Also known as Iwo Jima?
No, Iwo-jima is another island. Ie-jima is another island.
Jima. Okay, I did not know that. So, yeah, there you go.
They're the last two islands that held out in World War II, if
Those fuckers.
I remember correctly.
All right.
Bombed the hell out of them.
Yeah.
America.
That's right. Okay, so you just got back from vacation then. Okay, cool.
No, I got back on Tuesday night. It's Saturday afternoon right now, and I've just been doing the inner game July grind, eating healthy. I drank like a bunch of celery juice this morning, and then just drink some coconut water as well. So
I love coconut water, yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
Nice.
I'm gonna be. It's all natural detoxing stuff, so I'm gonna be.
Yeah. So inner game is all July.
Yeah, inner game July is just every video on my channel is just talking about inner game because over the last 2 years I've coached over 3,250 guys.
Holy shit.
The number one thing I've realized is the biggest problem with guys with dating and getting their fitness on point, getting their money on point, getting their taking that leap of faith with their job and writing that book and talking to that girl, whatever. It all comes down to some kind of like psychological trauma or issue that these guys have and they carry around with them. And I realized like through all my coaching that no amount of books, no amount of Patreon, no amount of courses, no amount of YouTube subscriptions, super chats, nothing will fix anything in your life unless you get this fixed. So I dedicated all of July to fixing up here and just telling the guys, how to live a life of excellence and self-improvement, kind of like just my daily life and just,
How much of that is actual trauma, mom really screwed them up when they were a kid, dad screwed them up when they were a kid, and how much of that is just they have to quote Star Wars and Master Yoda, unlearn what they had learned in order to go forward. So how much of that is trauma and how much of that is just unlearning the BS old school stuff that they grew up with that may have worked for grandpa but isn't going to work for them?
So
that's a really good question.
Yeah. Can I throw in just a quick? I will be generally brief.
He wasn't even asking you. He wasn't even asking you, TJ. But go ahead.
It doesn't matter. He's going to tell you. So let us have it, TJ. Let us have it.
I don't have a course on it, so I'm just throwing out my thoughts. It's just,
course.
$4.99. TJ.
I'm a 1099.
Leave TJ alone.
Well, no, I think that in my observation is it depends on the circumstances, but yeah, a lot of people were sold stuff that wasn't true. But for some people, it was all like, was it like a casual narrative that their parents raised them on, or was it like a religious thing? Like,
no, you're missing it. You're missing it all. This is what I'm trying to say is like,
oh, go ahead.
Look, okay, like if you watch on my channel, Modern Life Dating, if you go over there and you watch episode 1 of Inner Game July, I lay out all of the abuse that I went through as a child, emotional, physical, mental. I was tortured, right? I'm a statistical anomaly to be here. Just a lot of bad shit. And I talk about it all. And the thing is, because when I was young, this happened to me at a very young age, like from ages, like I would say ages 9 to like 16, I was like severely abused for like 7 years in a row.
Oh shit.
Mentally, physically, emotionally, a lot of emotional blackmail. Grew up single mom household, and then my aunt was like a real terrible person. And so when you're young, you don't understand what is like. We're all like, if I told you guys like, oh, the sky is green, all you guys would be like, oh, this guy's clearly a fucking idiot, right? But when you're young and somebody tells you the sky is green, you're like, oh my god, really? Like, oh, and somebody of authority over you, which is somebody who can basically, authority at that point in their life is somebody who can just take care of you because they're an adult. They can like, oh, like I can get some money, I can get some food, I can like provide safety for this child. So when that person starts telling you things, my aunt would always tell me I was demon possessed, I was a bad kid, I'm gonna go to hell and burn in the lake of fire.
Jesus.
Pokemon's the devil, Resident Evil is gonna cause demons to come into the family and bring sickness to everybody. That I was a bad person fundamentally from a Christianity standpoint, right? So you're having that bombarding you as a child. You grow up with these broken belief systems that are rooted in in emotional trauma that is chaotic, screaming, fighting these high emotional highs, and then they cut into you with a false belief system. Another thing, like when I was 13, I walked in on my mom. She was on the floor crying over like all these bills around her, and she's like, we have no money, money's so hard to get. And for like ages 13 to 18, my mom was just the number one thing she said was like, we have no money, money's hard to get, we have no money, money's hard to get. So I grew up as a man like just thinking like there's just this inevitable poverty constantly coming for me, and it's just like a
sword of Damocles hanging over your head.
It was like, in Final Fantasy when they cast Doom on you and it's like have 7 above you, like 7 turns 6 and 5. It's like I had financial doom casted on me.
That's a horrible way to live.
So it's not about like unlearning bad systems as the gentleman just asked, but it's about removing bad systems from your head, and then after removing those bad systems, replacing them with the proper information, not like get a 401k, IRA, Roth, trust the Federal Reserve, all that shit.
Yeah.
So it's 2 parts. But even if you give people the good information, the new systems, everything, if they have trauma in their head, they'll self-sabotage, they'll procrastinate, they'll get to where they want to get, but then they'll do it. I see people do it with drugs. I see people do it with money, women. So we're focusing on healing that with hypnotherapy in the group, and I've been doing endless amounts of hypnotherapy. I had food problems. I had obesity. I was technically obese, like at the bottom end of it, and sticking to my diet, feeling worthy, sexual anxiety. I had a lot of sexual anxiety. Talked to you about it, Vince, in private. I'm just like fucking just sometimes busting these nuts too quickly. And, and I talked about all this shit and I was doing Kegels and everything. But when I realized like I had to get the shit out of my head.
There's a lot of deep rooted things there. Yeah.
Everything, dude, it's like I can't lose now. I can't fucking lose. It's like I would have to actively try hard to lose because I pulled all that bad shit out, and I'm constantly listening to books. I'm constantly reading data, studying stuff like fasting, metabolic stuff, what's good for you, estrogenics, what compounds are killing you, drinking shit like celery juice, red light therapy, all these things now that are the good belief systems you should be having and should be implementing. But now that the trauma and self-sabotage was removed, because I had a problem with drugs all in my 20s as well, because not like coke or everything, but I was like smoking a lot of weed and being crazy, and that I would self-sabotage that.
You were numbing yourself. You were self-medicating yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Instead of healing or fixing yourself and moving forward, you were finding ways to make where you were bearable.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of what you find in the mental health community is the patient self-medicating.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. And so then that's my thing. Right? And so I'm doing that for the guys and getting a lot of people. Actually, somebody just booked a consultation right now on my phone. Is saying that.
Nice. So what is red light therapy?
It's basically, if you go to joovv.com, juve.com, it is a panel, and this light, you sit in front of it for 20 minutes a day, and it revitalizes your cells. It slows down aging. If this red light hits, this is real science, if the red light hits your scrotum as a man, your bare scrotum, it increases your testosterone levels. Like it sounds crazy, but it's actual documented science.
I'm just thinking there's people that are sunning their assholes.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're sunning your balls. Okay. All right. That's cool.
Now I got to ask, is it having that kind of childhood trauma and those kind of horrific life experiences, sharing them publicly, that's got to be a challenge. I mean, what brought you to the point where you, if not comfortable in doing so, could get over that kind of hurdle to put yourself out there like that and say, hey, here's all the shit, here's the skeletons out of my closet, and I mean, obviously, I'm understanding that it's because you're wanting to help others who have been through it as well, that you're putting yourself out there. But it's still, I have a buddy of mine who actually works in federal law enforcement. And he's like, I know federal agents that aren't as private as you are. And I have no problem being up on stage. I have no problem being on camera, especially if I'm playing a character on radio, whatever, no problem. But you want me to talk about my childhood, you want me to show you a picture of the girls I've been with. Yeah, that kind of stuff's just not gonna happen. I mean, I think the first time to Vincent and TJ and Amos was after the last show. I opened up a little bit about some stuff about me, but I'm a very private person. So I can't imagine doing that. So how did you do that?
Well, I know you just met, but I don't know if you've picked this up about me, but I really just don't give a fuck.
Yeah. Well, I've never seen you with your clothes on, so let's put it that way. Yeah. The 3 or 4 times we've been together, I have never seen you with clothes on. So
I just like the thing is this, like, and Vince can tell you, Vince is a smart man. He's a good judge of character. I actually sincerely care about helping men. I really do. I am a good person. Like, I know there's a lot of YouTube facades and bullshit and shit out there. I keep it real 10,000%. Like, I went to Vince. I was like, Vince, I am busting my nut in 30 seconds sometimes, and it is humiliating. Mm-hmm. What the fuck am I doing wrong? Right? Because sitting there and lying and lying to yourself, lying to people, not keeping it real, it is inefficient way to get the solution. So I just say, hey guys, now I'm self-made entrepreneur. You could figure out how much money I make, how I do for myself. I'm on the 19th floor high rise in a place in Tokyo. Do the math, right?
Yeah.
I've also
you're a gaijin doing that, which if anyone who knows anything about Japanese culture, renting a place when you're a gaijin, that's not rented for you by
like
your
an act of
company.
Congress.
Yeah, it's that. Yeah, that kind of stuff does not happen. So and it never happens for cheap.
And yeah, I had to put $27,000 down to move into this place.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, that being said, I just tell everybody, I was beaten. I was fucking thrown through the wall. My mom threw me through a fucking wall. I was severely beaten by my cousins. I was told I was the devil. You know, I got caught up in drugs when I was young. I had went through a lot of fucking bad things. And I just talk about all the bad things that happened to me. And I said, now look what happened. And here is where I am now. And this is why I am here, because I did X, Y, and Z. And and another thing is this too. A lot of guys can talk shit and be like, I don't need that shit, but I'm living the dream. I'm fucking young. I'm rich. I am good looking. I have sex with a lot of hot girls. These bitches worship me. They wash my clothes. They do my laundry. Any bitch come to my, and that's not just because they're Japanese. When I was in America, these bitches were doing the same shit. And I'm living I have the audacity to live the dream that a lot of guys want to live. And I just tell them, like, here's the thing. The bottom line is this. You got to pay the costs if you want to be the boss. Okay? You got to pay the costs to be the boss. And I'm telling them just transparently where I am. And those who come and learn, they learn. Those who don't want to, I mean, go, God bless you, but I'm going to keep doing what I do. And the people who listen to me will get results. I just feel like it's the most efficient way to convey it. I don't care what people think about me. I truly do not give a good goddamn what people think about me.
It's the only way to live.
I got a question.
It's the only way to live.
I got a question for you, John. So one of the things in trauma is you get accustomed to trauma, and it's kind of this chaos setting in. It's almost this exciting. You don't know what to expect, right? There's always going to be something new. How did you adjust out of that, where it almost became this like self-sabotaging thing? Like, things are going too good. This feels uneasy. Now I have to sabotage it.
That's trauma. That's trauma in your brain.
How do you change, or when you talk to people and they're saying it went really well, but then I've lost the handle on it, and they're just starting to make those steps out. So what's your thought on that? Because you've done that, you've made that, where a lot of people, the moment it starts to feel too comfortable, too much of a similarity, they inject or they do some chaos, some unstable behavior to bring them back where it's not predictable, because that's what they're comfortable with, even though it's not healthy. That's what they know. So, yeah, how do you help people with that, and how did you help yourself, or what was the moment when you start to feel like you had footing and you were making steps forward versus slipping and falling back?
Well, you got to realize if you're self-sabotaging, and then you have to realize that if you are self-sabotaging, it's due to some unconscious belief system, because your subconscious mind runs you. You think your conscious mind runs you. It doesn't. Your subconscious mind runs you. And if you have a pattern, if you're mentally aware of having these patterns in your life, like, hey, every time I get with a girl, it goes great, and then I start mindlessly accusing her of cheating, using myself as an example, right? I get a great girl, fucking, she's amazing. I love being with her. Sex is fire. She lets me hit it raw all the time. Everything's great. And then I start thinking, like, this bitch is a cheating whore. And and that's a pattern. And so then you dig deep into this, and then you figure out, okay, so basically what's happening is I'm finding somebody I really like her, and then I start destroying the relationship. Why am I destroying the relationship? I'm destroying the relationship because I feel I'm not worthy enough to have what I want. Where is that coming from? Some kind of subconscious broken system up here. Same thing with dudes. We've all seen the guy. Guy has all the protein powder. He has all the treadmills at home. He has all the weights. He has all the creatine. He has the keto books. He does all that shit, but he's still fat. He's still obese. Why?
Not putting in the work.
something up here is
Yeah.
is sabotaging him. Because I would be like that, because I had struggle to like walk past a Snickers and Kit Kat bar in the convenience store. I'd always be like, oh fuck, like it would be like a battle. Like I'd be like, you know,
especially in Japan, because you got those green tea Kit Kats. Are you kidding me?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
So you have to identify it. Ryan, they're both the hypnotists in my group. One is Ryan Fowler. He's really good. He's my personal one. He has innermasculine.com. And then Ryan Christensen has hypnosisformen.com. He plays Warhammer.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah. He was like
so
top.
he
top
is a
800.
masculine geek, then, is what you're
Yeah.
telling us.
They both are. Yeah, and I help both those kids get boatloads of pussy.
Cool. As well you should.
Yeah. So it's just you gotta be man enough to look into yourself in the mirror and be like, you know, what's like, we all know. We're not women here. We don't sit in the mirror and lie to ourselves. We know when we look in the mirror, do you have like the balls to look at yourself in the mirror as a man, and you know what are you doing right, what are you doing wrong. But to face that demon, takes a lot of strength. And when you face that demon, you got to go in there and kill him. And you kill him by acknowledging him and taking the power away from him. That's what you got to do.
Nice. Now, when did you the motivation, the impetus behind the inner game, July? When did that come about?
I would say, like, it was like, I say it came to me in June, because I had just done the Masculine Empowerment Network, and I'd realized that this whole situation here with the men, even in this most recent batch, all these guys are legit fucking struggling because of their broken belief systems. That's really what it boils down to. And I realized that no amount of books, no amount of anything is going to do anything. And the reason why is because the broken subconscious mind is the reason.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, how are you finding it so far? The guys that are involved with this, they're reaching out to you.
Oh, their lives are changing. Like not like, oh, I feel better about myself. Like, no, I just tripled my salary.
Oh wow.
I was an incel for 28 years, and now I have like 5 girlfriends.
Oh shit.
So little things like that.
I like it.
Yeah, because that's the thing with guys. We've got to see tangible results. If we don't see tangible results, then it's like this is a waste of time. We can talk about it all day and feel better about it. No, that's not how we operate. We can't do that in the coffee clatch with the girls. It's if I put in what I think is work and effort and I'm not getting results for it, then okay, what is going wrong? Am I doing something wrong? What's the flaw in the system? What's the flaw in me? What's the flaw in, your form's off. Okay, well, I need to do this. We want to fix it. We got to see results.
The only issue with that is a guy who's not, and I've seen this before in a lot of different courses, a guy who's not self-aware and is not putting in the work or twisting the teaching, as it were, will blame the course for his failure.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I am so used to talking to you guys. It's very different. I mean, hearing someone talking about, using the Socratic method. I've got a kid sister that's about a year and 21 days younger than me, and she swore up and down when we were growing up I was nuts, because that's how I operate, especially late at night, whether I'm writing fiction, whether I was working on something on a more academic level, or just because I'm seeing all the crazy stuff going on around me and I'm trying to work it out in my head. Why is it this way? And, so yeah, when you were talking about that, it's like, another kindred spirit. So I get that.
You got to to be honest with you, I was so mentally tortured that I was desperate that I'll just fucking try anything. I'll try it. Cause I didn't realize I had so much mental noise up here.
Right.
And it's all gone now. Like it's peace of mind, and I didn't know what
Nice.
this was like. But anyways, I got to go to the gym.
All right, brother.
Take
Good
care of
seeing
yourself. Good seeing
As
you again.
always, pleasure.
Thanks, John.
Love y'all. Peace
You
out.
as well. Take it easy.
Well, I guess since she's gone, y'all assholes are gonna have to deal with me then.
You don't have any. Your nipples aren't showing, so thank God.
Hey, I try to at least have that amount of couthness along me.
Oh, that's good. Well, that's John's trademark when he comes on Masculine Geek. Apparently, is to have no shirt on.
Just to get your channel demonetized. Jesus Christ. How y'all going tonight?
We're doing well. How about yourself?
Hey, I'm here.
Word. And Amos, how about yourself? You've been silent the entire time.
Doing good.
I see you.
I didn't want to jump in on anyone, and
You didn't want to interrupt.
yeah.
You
I
didn't want to pull a
appreciate-
TJ.
We appreciate that. Thank you. How's the new PC? Is it working well?
Looks nice. Looks
Yeah.
very nice.
Yeah.
Just smack it. No, no, it's I mean, it's been running since Wednesday. So,
Nice. Okay. There you go.
yeah, I'm just setting up a bunch of stuff right now. I was I've never been professional about like emails and stuff, like having a signature and all. I don't know. I just I was literally just setting up a email signature when you were asking me what I was doing.
Oh, okay. Cool. Fun stuff. All right, somebody's got a radio or some shit in the background getting some bleed over. Is that you, Bacon?
I got everything off here.
Somebody's running some shit in the background.
It's echoing actually. I hear.
Yeah. Test.
Delta Foxtrot.
Yeah, someone has a browser open with the YouTube running. Stop that. You should know by now. Everyone should know this shit by now. It's just an old hat. Don't do that.
Yeah, I don't see anything on my end.
Make sure I have everything closed out.
Well, the common denominator in
Yeah.
with the new occurrence is bacon.
I've got everything. So you guys know, listen to John, and he left before I could throw this out there, but back in what was between 1915 and 1924, the four vagabonds. I don't know if you're familiar with that. I wasn't familiar with that actually until maybe like I was age 40, right? Stuff they never covered in high school or college and whatever. But Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, Harvey Firestone, and John Burroughs. They went out, and did camping trips, and every summer, right? They're just hanging out together. Very successful, powerful people, and they're kind of busting each other's nuts, about like, hey, you got to be doing this, and like there's, Henry Ford gets up and they put his chair in the fire and stuff like that. I mean, it's just, but it's guy stuff, right?
Right.
But if they didn't have this close network of a couple guys who could see things from that perspective of having a lot of control, having, but also having challenges, right? Like this wasn't all great. And that's something I think is missing so much in the community of men or the brotherhood of men. I mean, it's isolation and, you can go down your path of solitude, but it's not having whether any type of interaction, which is really a true member check of somebody to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear, and then also just to be real and to not have everything so serious. So for anybody listening, I think, just do a little research on the four vagabonds, again, Ford, Edison, Firestone, and Burroughs. And if you can create that in your own life, I think it provides a lot of balance. And again, they weren't going out and studying how to, conquer industry and stuff like this. These are guys going out camping.
Yeah.
And I just think that was so amazing to read through and really learn what was going on. It was nonstop pranks too.
Oh, I could totally see that.
Well, you're talking.
I just
You're
can
talking
totally see
about
that happening.
You're talking about them. They're camping and being outside and busting each other's balls.
Right.
They're just being kids again.
They are.
They've tapped into that awe and wonder of what it's like to be a 10-year-old boy again, and I think that's the problem when that gets lost.
Mm-hmm.
That's an issue. So yeah. Bacon is trying to get back on.
There he is.
Jesus Christ.
Get better internet, Bacon.
Yeah.
Well, in
I
theory,
got the best internet I can get here, man. What can I say?
Jesus.
Pay top dollar for it too.
It's like you're in a demilitarized zone.
Yeah.
Sort of are.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're all over this is fascinating to me because we're all over this fading republic. I'm in New Jersey. Bacon, where are you?
In the
Roughly.
Pacific Northwest, the dark side, as TJ would put it.
There you go. And TJ, you're in the Pacific
North
Northwest.
Washington.
Where are you at, Amos?
Minnesota.
Doc, where are you at?
Wisconsin.
And Robert, where are you at?
Indianapolis, Indiana.
There you go. This is fascinating to me.
Or across all the three time zones.
Yeah.
We have, because right now it is 1:11 a.m. on the East Coast.
No, we would need Rob.
Oh yeah.
Rob is only 2-hour time zone.
No, I'm saying like to get all 4 time zones of the 48 states.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. All right, let's not get technical now.
Yeah.
Close enough.
It's the Geek.
Good enough for government work. That's what I always say.
We've got people on either coast and some of us here in the middle, so that'll have to do for a Friday night at the last minute.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, this is like the last minute, and it's funny too because I reached out to TJ via Telegram and then got immersed in a movie and completely forgot about the fact that I had said, "Hey, let's do a broadcast."
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "Are we still doing this?" I'm like, "Oh shit, yeah, sure. Yes, we are." So here we are.
Whoops.
Yeah, this has been fun.
And we've got our thing tomorrow.
We do. We have the Masculine Geek Life Fortress /Zoom hangout. There's been a change of the narrative, and Raul cannot make it. We have to reschedule. I'm sure no one is shocked.
That's
So
getting
we got
at least you have a warning.
we got Rolloed, yes.
Yeah.
So we will go over something that I was going to plan for next month. I'll just switch them around. We'll go over BDSM and DS relationships. Any questions you guys want to ask me? How you want to implement that in your own lives, or some tips and tricks, as it were, and just a general discussion, for the most part. So,
Awesome.
Nah. Wasn't this game as much as I was before, but I certainly am now.
Yeah,
That's all I'll say on the subject.
Cool. So it's still the same time, 3 p.m. Eastern, and the Zoom link is in your email. It's also on the members area of the website. So, yep.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Homeschool Time. Yes, that is Robert E. McGinnis. We were talking about that on Wednesday. It's the book is called Brooks Wilson. It's from 1963 or 65. It's a pulp novel. It's not bad. It's okay. I wouldn't read it again, but I did buy it for the artwork, and I was interested in the blurbs on the book itself. That caught my attention. Good marketing. It's very good marketing. But the actual book, it's okay. Read it once, you're fine. But it's expensive because it's out of print and it's hard to find.
Some books are like that. There's some books that aren't worth reading. I think what was it? 3 general categories. Some books you might regret reading. There's some, like they're so good you really don't need to read it once. And there's some, like you can read it over and over again and it just never gets old.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Some books are like old friends if you come back to them. And it's like Lord of the Rings. I read Lord of the Rings almost every year now. Yeah. David Eddings is the same way with his Belgariad Malorian series. Arya Salvatore with the Driss Duerden from the Forgotten Realms, Dungeons and Dragons. Those series of books, fantastic. Great dialogue, great action scenes.
When it comes to fiction, I'm like that with Bernard Cornwell, either his Sharps or his Viking series, both of which I really enjoy. Lord of the Rings, I've made a habit of reading pretty much every 10 years. I read through all of it once, and it wasn't a plan to do it. It's just the first time I read The Lord of the Rings, I was about 10 years old, 9 or 10. And then I read it in my late teens, and then again in my late 20s, early 30s. And it was just amazing how each time I read it,
something new.
Well, yeah, my life perspective was different, and so what I got out of the story, the first time I read it, I thought the hobbits were really cool, and Merry and Pippin. It's like, oh, I'd be buds with Merry and Pippin, and because when you're young and still, under that 5-foot threshold, and the world is this big, scary place, and you think, wow, I can be a little person and go out into the world, and as long as I'm there with my bros, and I can still make something happen, I can still do something. And the fact that the two of them became knights, esquire in the service of two great kings of men, that to me as a little kid was really cool. But reading it as an adult, and not that I'm that much more wiser, but your perspective changes, and you get different things out of Aragorn's narrative and the responsibility of being the king and of taking that throne, of Gandalf and what Gandalf was observing, and just how much of a price both Bilbo and Frodo, especially Frodo in such a short period of time, paid for being the ring bearer and for going through all that. So it just
all the hobbits were forced to grow up.
Yeah, and it just so it's different when you're reading it and you still have the growing up to do, and then years, and in some cases decades after the growing up has been done. Although honestly, if you look around the room I'm sitting in, it doesn't look like I've grown up at all. Although I don't know that many kids that have bottles of whiskey next to their Biotron figure. So
there's a lot of guys who claim that they've grown up and they're still children.
Nice.
So the whole concept of childishness today doesn't mean anything.
Not really.
It doesn't.
Literally read as I wrote that.
Yeah. So
indeed. All right, gentlemen. It's close to 2 a.m. and I am fucking tired. I have an early morning tomorrow. So, and a long day because I have the Zoom Fortress Masculine Geek Life hangout tomorrow. And immediately thereafter, I have a live D&D game around the table, which
awesome.
I haven't played with my my friends in a year and a half. So this is going to be monumental.
Are you the dungeon master?
Yes, I am. Of course. Absolutely.
Kind of appropriate on multiple levels there. I'll just leave it at that, Vince.
Indeed. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So let's do a little housekeeping as usual. TJ, where can everyone find you?
tjmartinell.com. MartinEll. If you can't figure it out, I can help you.
You're a dumbass. And you're going to be on the Zoom tomorrow, right?
In some capacity, yes.
Briefly.
Okay. Yes. All right, cool. Doc, how about yourself?
Yes, safetyphd.com. And if you are interested, my book, School of Errors, which came out in 2019,
highly recommend it,
is a deep dive into revealing the industrial complex of school safety. I did 2 PBS presentations on that too. So, interesting stuff.
It is, and it's not written. It has the feel of a textbook, but it's not written like a textbook. It's you've written it like you're talking to a human being. And so it's nice.
It's really gaining momentum now too. Like every week, more and more libraries across the world. So it, but yeah, I think it's a fascinating read to see how the cogs of that work.
Absolutely. Bacon, how about yourself?
There we go.
Hello. Hello.
Hey, Vince muted me because I bumped my mic, and I don't blame him. And I didn't
No.
want to be rude.
No. I muted you because you were the culprit with the echoing in the background.
Jeez. I thought we solved that. Anyways,
We did solve it. We did solve it. I muted you.
Jesus Christ. I can't win. I just can't.
You can't get a
win.
break.
The goddamn bacon.
The
thegoddamnbacon.com, Instagram, which I'll be going live on there after this, at
All
the
right.
goddamn bacon, and Twitter, who is this bacon one? Why is it who is this bacon one? Because
you keep
I'm
getting
on my
fucking
fifth account
banned.
and I'm too lazy. And I'm too lazy to change the damn name.
Oh, Jesus. Amos, how about
That's all I
yourself?
got.
On Twitter at Amos Joe. Done. There.
All right. Short and sweet. You were very brief. Thank you. Robert, how about yourself? Where we can find you?
Robert Kuzlin on Twitter, Instagram, and on YouTube, where I do random pirate broadcasts, which are live and deleted. So you have to catch me when you do. Might be doing something a little bit more permanent and for keeps in the future. And obviously hanging out here with the masculine geeks. So
Absolutely.
thank you very much.
You're welcome. Pleasure. And for myself, masculinegeek.life. All right. If you haven't joined, there's one membership left. Once that goes, you are shit out of luck. So head over to masculinegeek.life and figure out whether or not you wish to join. You're a dumbass if you don't.
Kind of curious to see who's the new one, but I'm not going to ask that question here.
He's on the panel right now.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right.
That's right. All right, excellent. Okay, so everyone who is a Masculine Geek Life member, I will see you tomorrow. For the rest of you bastards, magnificent bastards, we'll see you next Wednesday. The plan for next Wednesday is most likely the continuing campaign, D&D campaign run by Raul Tomasi, the Rational DM. So there you have it. Enjoy the rest of your evening, your morning. Enjoy your weekend. And TJ, take us out.
All right, folks. Keep the wine flowing. Keep the fires burning. Keep the lead shooting down range. Don't take any wooden nickels. And don't drink all the freaking rum.
That's right, Aaron Clara, you fucker.
You dirty whore.
Your